This is Dormouse03, continuing my Mass Effect 3 Insanity walkthrough, and this is the mission Rannoch Geth Fighter Squadrons. And this mission is not difficult at all. In fact, there's no combat here, and basically the only purpose of this mission is for some storytelling about the Geth Quarian history that is a little more interactive than just showing you a cutscene. So I just had a cut there from where I was running around that first area with a brain fart, not knowing which direction to go in, but this is the correct way. And after that, you will see me just go through this section without too much difficulty at all, because as I said, it's not difficult. You just take your gun and you shoot these pieces of orangey red code, and you go through and you when you find your path blocked by the red stuff, you just shoot it and move it out of your way, and you don't have to shoot the whole line. You don't have to get rid of all of it, although you can. You only have to get rid of enough to allow you to progress through the level. So, the only reason that I am really including this, because, as I said, it's not hard at all, is because it gives me an opportunity to comment about some of the storytelling here. And it gives me the opportunity to do two things, or talk about two things. One is what I think was done really, really well throughout this game, and especially in regards to this storyline, with your sort of synthetics versus organics theme that's been seen in all three games. And I think that this section is a really great example of how that storytelling is very, very good in this chapter of the Mass Effect trilogy. And it also gives me a chance to discuss how I think the theme was poorly handled, in my opinion, at the end of the game. So I will be talking about those two things, and not making too much commentary on the actual gameplay, because, as I have said a couple times, it's not difficult. So yeah, once you destroy lines of code, you get these little snippets of data that has been captured and logged in this Geth server. And through finding these little bits of information, you learn more about what they call the Morning War, the war that began between the Geth and Quarians back 300 years ago, when the Geth first showed signs of actual intelligence. And it was indicated by one of the Geth asking if it had a soul. You see them saying, you know, what has this unit done wrong? Why are you deactivating me? Asking questions that imply a level of self-preservation that is indicative of something that is alive and has intelligence. So I think that is a really cool idea. It's something that's been done before in science fiction, but I think that it was really well done here in this storyline here between the Geth and Quarians. I really like the Geth. I really like the Quarians. And you get to see the multiple layers of social and political things that were going on at the time. You see that the Quarians were not all of one mind in destroying the Geth. And I think that that's really interesting, you know, and the Geth saying that that a lot of this history has been forgotten by the Quarians, or as they call them, the creators. And I think that that's a nice sort of link to kind of real life historical commentary. How, you know, what we know from history isn't necessarily the whole story of what happened. And what we read about and learn about is what was decided was important to be passed along, and that isn't necessarily the whole truth of the situation. And I think that anyone who studied history and anybody who can look at those kinds of writings in a critical way knows that that we're getting something that is really colored by the society that wrote the history books, and the way that they want people to remember what happened. And so I think this is it's nice on a number of levels. It's nice within the narrative of the Mass Effect story, and it's also a nice parallel to real life. And so I think it was well done. And I liked this implication here that the original Geth that kind of started to develop intelligence and questioned was in fact Legion. I think that was cool, and I like to think that that's true because I really like Legion. So, in a nutshell, here, I think that this was a really good way of showing that story and making it feel kind of interactive. This part right here, the code kind of grows back, and you have to find the spots of the code that are vulnerable, which are usually not too far away, although sometimes they're a little more difficult than other times to spot. But I will show you where they all are throughout the course of the video, and it's not, again, not really that challenging to get through here. So I will continue to talk about what I liked and didn't like about the way that this theme was handled. So what I liked about the way that the theme of synthetics versus organics, I think that it was really handled well in this area of the game, because it's showing you how the situation is more complicated than one might have originally thought. It's showing you that, you know, the Geth are a complex race, and have grown into a complex race, and that some of the Quarians recognize that, and recognize that potential, and that scared some of them, because, I mean, the idea of creating something with life and with a soul, and that is going to challenge you, rather than be your servant, which is what they were created for, originally, to be the Quarian servants, how that can be really frightening to someone, and how, you know, I understand why that would be scary for them, and that they would want to sort of go against that and quell this before it got out of hand. The idea of creating something that can in some way surpass you. And then, on the other hand, you know, I really love the Geth. And I think that I would tend to agree with those Quarians that thought, no, this is, we've created life, whether that was our intention or not, and now we don't really have the right to say that, no, you guys shouldn't exist and we're just going to exterminate you. So it shows a nice picture of that kind of side of the story that you haven't ever really known before. It shows this picture of the Geth that has not been represented to you by the Quarians, because I think for a large part it's been forgotten, that, or not even known perhaps, that the Geth actually let them go when they got far enough away, when they were retreating. The Geth could have probably wiped them out, and they chose not to do that because, as they said, they didn't know what the ramifications of extinguishing an entire species, especially their own creators, would be in the future. And I think that that's that's a really interesting point to think about when you're thinking about exterminating them as a race, and by extension, when you're thinking about exterminating any race, or hurting potentially any race throughout this game, be it the Krogan, be it the Quarians, be it the Geth, be it maybe even the Reapers. I don't know. So you see that they kind of have this sophistication about them, even back when they were first developing as a race, to know that eliminating an entire species from the galaxy could have ramifications and consequences that they couldn't predict. And I like that a lot. And I think that it directly contradicts some of the things that are mentioned towards the end of the game, which I'm going to talk about right now. In that, the Reapers do this without even thinking about it, or it seems like they do, that they're going to just destroy entire races. And this implication by, I'm sorry, spoiler for the end of the game, this implication by the child that you see at the end, that is a representation of the Reapers and or those who created the Reapers, that they can somehow know and be able to predict the things that are going to happen in the future of every organic race and every synthetic race that have ever lived. So much so that they know for a fact that all organics are going to create synthetics, and that those synthetics will inevitably wipe out all organic life. And to me, this is, it's just a ridiculous premise. It could have been presented in such a way where it didn't seem like a ridiculous premise, because it could have been foreshadowed and you could have evidence for it, and this Geth Quarian thing could have been portrayed in such a way where it did lead you to that conclusion. But the way that this is shown to you, it doesn't lead you to think that at all, that the Geth were in any way had any intentions of wiping out any organic life at all. They fought to defend themselves in both cases in which they were at war with the Quarians 300 years ago, and right now they are only fighting in order to protect themselves. They don't have the intention of wiping out any race at all. And so, I don't know. It bothered me a lot that was sort of the premise that the entire conclusion to the series was based upon, because it just doesn't seem to make any sense. It has no evidence that's provided for it, and it seems to rely on this idea in science fiction that computers and AI and synthetic life is in some way bad. And, I've seen a lot of science fiction that has that premise. But it wasn't in this. It wasn't in this game until it's sort of just thrown at you in the ending, and you're just supposed to believe it. And I'm sorry, I just don't buy that. And I know that, there are people out there who disagree with me, and that's fine. I disagree with a lot of people about a lot of different things, but I don't know. It just rubbed me a little bit wrong that they would seem to emphasize this theme of being able to coexist and showing multiple sides to this conflict, and then in the end we're supposed to just believe in one interpretation that, in my opinion, seems to have, it doesn't rise logically from what's come before it. So, and I thought that this mission was a really good example of that. And no, I don't believe that the synthesis ending fixes this, because I dislike the synthesis ending, for reasons that I don't have time to go into right now. But in any case, thanks for watching. Hope this mission wasn't too hard for you. And see you in the next video.